ADFR distribution points. In this module, you will learn the role and purpose of a distribution point server, when to use a distribution point server in an ADFR deployment, the differences between standard and multi-forest distribution points, and finally, requirements for installing a distribution point server. Before diving in, it's helpful to establish a clear understanding of where Active Directory backups are stored within an ADFR environment. In a forest with multiple domain controllers, like the ones shown in this example, the goal is to back up the Active Directory data to the designated management server. In practice, an Active Directory forest backup is composed of individual backups from multiple domain controllers. Using backup rules, you can define groups of DCs to back up accordingly. Each domain controller uses an agent to first create a local backup of its AD data, which is then compressed to roughly 1/3 of its original size. By default, one copy of this compressed backup is retained locally on the domain controller, while another is sent to a central file location on the management server, in this example, a folder on drive E. Depending on the overall architecture, it may be beneficial to distribute the backup load across multiple servers known as distribution points. While the central management server continues to orchestrate all backup operations and maintain the metadata for each backup, the actual storage of individual backup groups can now be directed to different distribution points, helping to optimize performance and scalability. Additionally, for greater geographic resilience, domain controller backups can be copied across multiple distribution points, including the central management server itself. This makes the distribution point server a critical component in larger deployments, serving as the storage location for backups captured from domain controllers. By default, the ADFR management server becomes the first distribution point created during the initial setup of ADFR. Adding additional distribution points is optional and depends on the specific needs of your environment. However, there are several scenarios where doing so can be highly beneficial. For instance, in environments with limited bandwidth between the ADFR management server and remote domain controllers, or where firewall restrictions limit the available ports between the management server and the DCs, deploying distribution points closer to the source can improve efficiency and reliability. In larger environments, multiple distribution points can be leveraged to distribute the load during a forest recovery process. Additionally, domain controller backups can be replicated across distribution points to ensure redundancy and safeguard the data across multiple locations. ADFR supports two types of distribution points. A standard distribution point is designed to support a single forest within a specific site. Its installer is named dpagent.zip, and it can be managed through the Distribution Points tab in the main menu for the respective forest. In addition, multi-forest distribution points are designed to support multiple forests within a given site. The installer for this type is named mfdpagent.zip. These servers are managed from a dedicated interface, accessed via the global button in the header, as they apply across all forests managed by ADFR. First, keep in mind that to use multi-forest distribution points, you must explicitly enable this functionality for the target forest. Now let's discuss the backup storage location, which is fully configurable. By default, when the distribution point agent is installed, it will automatically find the drive with the most free disk space and create a Semperis backup store subfolder to hold the backups. However, if you need to change this path, you have two options. You can either adjust it in the UI after deployment, or you can specify a custom path during a manual installation using the msi-exec command. For multi-forest distribution points, a single configurable backup path is used for all forests. The system differentiates these backups by adding the respective forest ID to the path. As stated before, each forest must be individually enabled to use this feature. This enablement is configured per forest and is irreversible without unregistering and re-registering the forest. A forest can be enabled for this feature during its initial registration or later via the action menu. Let's now review a common design pattern. In this scenario, a two-site forest requires local backups for optimal performance. To accomplish this, we simply place one standard distribution point in each site. At this point, DCs are backing up to their local distribution point in each site. Then, a second forest is introduced, perhaps from an acquisition. The standard approach would require 2 new servers to handle this second forest backups. This is precisely where multi-forest distribution points become the logical and efficient solution. To implement this, we first enable the feature on our original forest, which automatically upgrades its DPs into multi-forest DPs. When we register the second forest, we also enable the feature for it. We can then use the existing distribution points for its backups, saving us 2 servers. Important note, before enabling the multi-forest feature, understand that this action triggers an automatic conversion. All standard distribution point servers in the enabled forest will be immediately upgraded to multi-forest distribution points. Finally, the system requirements for a distribution point are fairly low. In essence, a distribution point is a Windows server that must not be in the forest it protects. Keep it in a workgroup or a different forest. CPU and memory requirements are low, but planning for disk space is critical. The required space depends on the size and number of your backups. For specific guidance on this, consult the Backup Sizing chapter in the ADFR Planning and Installation Guide. In this module, you learn the concept of the distribution point server and the difference between the 2 types, when to use a distribution point as part of the overall solution, and the requirements for installing a distribution point server. Thank you, and we hope to see you on the next module.